a lenha, rojão, traz a lenha pro fogão, vem fazer a maçã. Hoje é um dia de sol, alegria de coió, é curtir o verão.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Alegria de coió, é curtir o verão.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Hello, my name is Cavallo with Capoeira Maculele, Miami. The history of Capoeira is interesting. It was developed around close to 500 years ago, actually by Afro-Brazilian slaves brought over in the Brazilian slave trade. Various different tribes, they were brought over to the country, formed, you know, they were slaves, all worked together and things like that. And a lot of the escaped slaves, well, of course there were people that escaped, developed things called quilombos. They were actually like little societies made up of the escaped slaves, and they would train the art amongst themselves to be able to defend themselves against anybody that would try to, you know, come into to their territory and maybe, you know, bring them back to their owners and things like that. So they trained capoeira, a very primitive form of capoeira, which was their only means of self-defense. Later on, even slaves on the plantation began training capoeira. That's the reason why you see capoeira as very graceful in the movements. A lot of people mistake it for a dance. It's actually a martial art disguised behind the dance, because the slaves that were actually on plantations had to disguise it somehow. They weren't allowed to you know, practice a deadly martial art in plain sight. So, you know, when slave owners would come around, they would disguise it and, you know, make it look more like a dance. That's another reason why it's the only martial art that is practiced with live music, live instruments, and singing. That's basically where a lot of it takes place. The root comes from, you know, those times way back when, hundreds of years ago. Well, capoeira clothing, it's a lot, well, in my opinion, is a lot more comfortable than other martial arts. There's no gi and you know, heavy uniform. What we use is just basically a white T-shirt with our logo on it, you know, and capoeira pants, which are really, you know, comfortable fitting pants. They pretty much, you know, anybody could use on a daily basis, you know. And we have the cords. Okay, we have cords that we use instead of belts, which is you know, one of the bigger differences between capoeira and other martial arts. It's not an actual belt per se. It's a cord. It's a cotton cord that you know, we color as according to different levels for the student. You know, first year student, second year student, whatever level they're at is the color cord they receive. It's kind of like similar to karate in that aspect as far as graduation is concerned. But the only difference being that instead of it being a belt, it's a cord. So in all, it's a very comfortable uniform, plain T-shirt with a logo on it, and comfortable fitting pants. We provide clothing for the students. You know, the pants are brought over to us from Brazil, because it's an actual fabric that you don't find here, you can't get made. T-shirts we get from here also. But it's basically provided by me. You know, when students come in, they enroll, they're given the uniform, you know, t-shirt and pants. We have different types of clothing also that people may be able to use outside of capoeira. We have a lot of women's clothing, tops. We even have bikinis, stuff like that. That you know, it's kind of like part of the Brazilian culture. Different types of clothing that partake into capoeira people use also outside on the streets.